The title, Unfinished, opens up a degree of ambiguity. In some ways, the work borrows conventions from documentary practice, in particular the eyewitness account or the account of the survivor. I'm interested in how stories get told within a documentary, and in this work I'm trying to open up some areas of doubt around the reliability of such accounts. The story at the centre of the work is fictional, but has elements that are based on real events and the telling of those events.
They were waiting for me. I didn't see them coming. I was only a few minutes away from the house when they grabbed me from behind and forced me into a car. They pulled a piece of cloth, like a blanket or something, over my head and pushed me down onto the floor of the car.
I used the structure of a double screen installation to reinforce slippages or gaps in the account of the story. Both screens serve to disrupt the continuity of the story and to establish temporal ruptures between the different spaces, both visualised and spoken about in the work. I also want to suggest that the interview was recorded in fragments and not as a single continuous monologue. The work makes visible the space that the man struggles to remember. He tries to recall if the place he is sitting in is the same place as the one he was held in, or if it is a different but similar place. It's important, therefore, that the verbal account is interspersed with images that attempt to describe this terrifying place that he talks about. The series of photographs out of body that accompany the installation are, as the title suggests, concerned with the body, or rather the loss of control of the body that is often experienced by hostages and captives. The unknown man in Unfinished talks about how his captivity affects his perception of his body as a physical entity, about how he feels out of control of his own body. Consequently, his perception of space and of liberty itself is compromised. After their release, many hostages have spoken about how they used to dream of freedom, of being in a place where they can breathe again, of an idealised or romantic image of a landscape. Somehow the landscape becomes an embodiment of what freedom represents. So these photographs of the sky and of the sea, things that are associated with freedom, become contaminated by the text that is embedded in their surface. The text pulls the work back to the experience of the body as a site of disorder and violence. Unfinished is the first work that I've made where I've written the script in advance of filming, primarily because this work involves an actor speaking to camera, so I had to produce the script before the shoot. In other works that I've made, such as Non-Specific Threat and Ghost Story, the voiceover script is usually written after filming. Now, this is the reverse of the conventional process of shooting in response to a script. But the work that I make often starts in response to a place, or from thinking about the history or significance of a particular place. And that is also true of Unfinished. I started thinking about the possibilities for this work when I found the empty warehouse, which had been unused since being abandoned by a multinational company in the 1980s.
I didn't know why I had been taken, but the people who held me insisted that I knew what I had done. I tried to explain to them that I knew nothing, that they got the wrong person. I never talked to anyone. I was never part of it. I knew nothing. I never talked to anyone. But they never believed my story.
Unfinished is one of a number of works that I have made that have sought to use the experience of the conflict in the north of Ireland as a model for looking at other conflict situations where the control of and access to language itself become contested. In many ways, the experience of the British in Ireland has provided other governments with a set of ground rules for dealing with terrorism, how to manage it internally, how to talk about it, and importantly, how to negotiate. Unfinished is an attempt to confront our fears about global terrorism. I'm interested in how our knowledge of terrorism and our fears are shaped by such stories and how they are told and understood. The plight of a hostage is often scripted as a statement for family and friends, but it's one that reaches a global audience. Human stories are often manipulated in shaping the justification for war. Some commentators have said that everyone who has lived through the conflict in the north of Ireland is a survivor. This is quite a huge statement. So I kind of wonder, is it possible for an artwork to contribute to a post-conflict situation in the absence of any formal process for truth and reconciliation? My work starts with the local, with the specific detail and texture of a particular place, but I hope it expands beyond this to examine underlying dynamics that are recognizable in other contexts.
I could hear my own strained voice, pleading, quivering with fear. Again and again, I saw my lifeless body being tossed into a shallow grave, bruised, bloodied, shot.